Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
What's up guys, welcome back to On the Brick with another custom LEGO review. Yesterday, July 20th, was the 51st anniversary of the very first moon landing. That of course was the very famous mission where astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans ever to walk on another planetary body. Something that a surprising amount of people don't know is that the next 3 years after Apollo 11, 6 other lunar missions were launched with 5 successful landings, with Apollo 13 of course being the one non-successful landing. But even amongst those who know about the other landings, one question I've always seen is why did the mission stop at Apollo 17? And while this video isn't going to be a deep breakdown into the history of the Apollo program and why it stopped, the very short answer is essentially, as it always is, politics. Because the Apollo lunar missions were actually supposed to go for 3 more missions in 18, 19, and 20, and the first of those missions to be cancelled was Apollo 20, as the Saturn V rocket was to be used to launch America's very first space station, SKYLAB. And though this part isn't really entirely relevant to the video, I always found it cool that SKYLAB was actually launched on my birthday just 21 years before I was born. And this is what that rocket looks like in LEGO form. Of course, if you have the regular Saturn V set, you know that it is a huge set on its own, and so this is no different. It's so big that it doesn't really fit into my light box properly. But what's really important for you to know when it comes to the LEGO version is that the bottom 2/3 are just the Saturn V set, and the top third is what's different, so let's take a closer look at that. And even while we look at this, you might only think that the fairings on top are what really stands out, and that's because the black and white section at the bottom is actually the SKYLAB module, which was built using the S4B, or the Saturn V's third stage. He literally just took that third stage and redesigned it to be a space station. And that becomes a little more obvious when you take a look at some of the things on here. For instance, these tiles on the side of the build can be removed because that's where the solar panels are supposed to go. Of course, this particular version I have in the launch configuration, so I don't have those, but you will see them. These fairings on top are actually really easy to remove. Just pop off the top cone and then take them out. And this set is designed to look just like SKYLAB did when it launched. The other side of the fairing pops out just as easily, of course, and allows for a better view of what is inside. These blue plates are meant to represent the solar panels we see in the fully extended version of SKYLAB. Overall, I think this particular build, how it is in this launch configuration, looks really, really cool. But if you didn't know, SKYLAB actually had some issues once it was launched, and how it was planned to be isn't what turned out. And this here is how the space station was meant to look. 4 solar panels extended in an X shape on top, and the 2 larger solar panels on either side of the space station. And for the record, this is actually a separate build from my launch configuration version. And just like the launch configuration version, this is also 1:110 scale, or basically the same scale as the Saturn V set, meaning this is a properly scaled version to what the space station should have been. But unfortunately, like I said, that's not what happened, and this is how SKYLAB ended up looking. Again, this isn't a history video, so I'm not going to go into all the details of what happened, but it's pretty obvious that one of the solar panels never deployed, and that yellow goldish thing on top is actually a heat shield, because it ends up it was almost unbearably hot inside of the space station. And though I do have the instructions for this version again in the proper scale, I just have not built it yet, but one day I do plan to. And as you see in this picture, they did use the Apollo capsules to get to the space station, but how exactly did they do that? Well, with the same rocket that they had been using for quite a while at that point, the Saturn 1B. It's kind of funny how big of a rocket this thing actually is. Not gigantic by any means, only measuring up to about the same height as the space shuttle, but still being completely dwarfed by the Saturn V. And in the exact opposite of the Saturn V with SKYLAB, the top third of this build is exactly the same from the Saturn V set, while the bottom 2/3 are the custom parts. I'm gonna be completely honest and say that the version of this that I have isn't the best, and you can definitely find much better and much newer versions out there, but this rocket still holds up very well, and I just love being able to see it with the rest of my space area, as it's not unstable by any means. It doesn't look bad, it doesn't fall apart. There are literally no problems with this set, other than newer versions are built just a tiny bit better with more accuracy. These rockets are a legacy, and even though I was born decades after their final launches, it's still really awesome to have these because of what they are and what they represent. In my opinion, the Saturn V and subsequently the moon landing are some of the greatest achievements in mankind, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. There are so many different versions of these sets out there, and all for free too. I'm just gonna include 2 links to where you can find a bunch of these sets down below, but if you're a huge space fan, just know that there are countless out there with so many different rockets from everywhere around the world and rovers and everything. And I really hope that one day rockets like these won't just be decades old memories, but things we can experience again. And to be honest, I don't really know how to end this video. So once again, I'm just going to ask for questions for a Q&A. So if you have any questions for anything at all, it doesn't have to be LEGO related. You can literally ask me anything, put them in the comments down below, and once I get enough, I'll make a video about it. If you're a fan of rockets or space, go ahead and hit that like button down below. Or if you're a fan of LEGO rockets, maybe consider subscribing, even though I do mainly focus on Star Wars custom sets. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for 150 subscribers. I seriously cannot believe how fast I'm growing. If you want to help me keep growing and keep making awesome videos, go ahead and check out my Patreon like these awesome people did. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.